just talking.
I'm just being uncool.
I don't believe in guilty pleasure.
A choice right now between fear and love.
Welcome back to Empower the Audience. This week I'm going to call it a Grogcast more than a podcast. We spent all day yesterday in the movie theater watching movies, as we did on our right before our first episode of this show, or at least mine. And yeah, I guess it was might have been the first episode, doing the Best Picture showcase, which we'll get into in a bit. That's where you watch all of the Best Picture nominees. Over 2 weekends right before the Oscars. If you're interested, AMC does it. Check your local theater, and you might be too late for this year, but check it out for next year. It's a lot of fun. You literally camp out in the movie theater all day and watch 4 to 5 nominees for Best Picture. So we'll get into it now. We'll talk about some TV actually first. We watched a Hulu exclusive. It's a mini, or you might even call it a maxi series. I think it's 8 episodes. Called 11/22/63. If you don't know anything about this or have never heard of it, it was a Stephen King novel, and it is now a Hulu maxi series starring James Franco, and Chris Cooper plays a prominent role as well. It basically, the premise is there is a portal in the basement of a diner that will take you back in time to a specific moment in time in the year 1960. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's in the 1960, even though the date says 63 is the name. It's 1960, and the concept is James Franco's character is going to try to prevent the assassination of JFK.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that I can't comment on the entire first episode. I was very tired. There was the hurricane flu season has been coming through our apartment. That's why we did not have a show last week. So I did miss the end of it due to my sleep. So Chris can talk about it. He's promised not to spoil the ending of it for me. But it was interesting. I'm sure it got even more interesting as the episode went, because you guys really liked it.
The episode was a lot longer than I thought it would be. I thought it was just sitting down for an hour episode, but it was almost like a full movie itself. It was like about an hour and a half. But yeah, the stories about this modern day teacher / writer. He's kind of tired of things. He's going through a divorce, and the kids are very apathetic. He teaches like high school literature, and then he does night school for adults in the same subject of like writing and such. And he just kind of is tired of things. Just people are very apathetic about stuff. And this diner he goes to, this old man ends up kind of showing him how there's this portal in the back of the diner that will take him back to 1960, and each time you go into it, you go back to that same period. And he comes back, and he's very sick, and so he tells him, like, you need to complete this task I tried to do, which was stop the assassination of JFK. And in the book, it goes a little bit more into his reasoning of it. I thought it was... I thought it was a little bit better set up in the book. It made me feel a little bit... I understood a little bit more why he wanted to do it, which was he felt like the assassination of JFK was this huge watershed moment for the country, and really altered where the country went with a lot of decisions that happened from there on out.
It's like a loss of innocence. It was related to the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
There is documentation that that JFK wasn't pro the Vietnam War, and that it was Lyndon Johnson that took it to further escalation. So what you're saying is it's kind of like a stone thrown in a pond, that the ripples. JFK's death was kind of like the stone, and then the ripples
that was
kind of
the
affected history.
One thing that just made this country into how it is, and the man Al, the guy that runs the diner, feels like if someone could go back and stop that, there's a chance that the ripple effect of that will really fix this country and make it a better place. And so the teacher, ends up going back and is going to try to do that. So, yeah.
Just to give you an idea of like what he was explaining about the kind of the James Franco's character's situation, he's really just kind of like he's trying to hold out hope. There's a great kind of instance of this where he's got this teacher, he's teaching this older gentleman in night school, and he's really encouraged by the guy's writing talent and all that stuff, and that guy's going for a promotion, and he finds out that the guy has no shot, and then it's just kind of like that one glimmer of hope that he had in teaching, that's what kind of teachers look forward to, that kind of success story, like they actually made a difference. Even that gets kind of thwarted. So even that one little last thing of hope for him to hold on to was gone. So that's part of, I think, why he's open to actually going and doing something else and maybe making a difference in a bigger scheme by going back in time and doing this. So
yeah.
So really good. We've only seen the one, right?
Just one
so
episode's out
there'll
so
be
far.
seven. There'll be seven of those episodes, and since they are on Hulu, we highly suggest you check them out. And this is not a plug because we don't have advertisers yet. But if you are interested in Hulu or have been using Hulu or even frustrated with Hulu's commercials or whatever, I highly suggest you try to get their commercial free. It's like $11.99 a month or something like that. It's so worth it because it basically makes what you might have to wait for on Netflix, you can actually watch a lot sooner on Hulu and at commercial free. Again, that was not a plug. I don't get money from them. Hopefully someday I will, and we'll do the advertising thing, but we're not there yet. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Better Call Saul. In our household, we kind of all bring the introductions of different entertainment at different times. Like Chris might be into something and he brings it to the group and then we all get into it. This kind of happens in different ways. With Lainey, a lot of it is books. She introduced us to Hunger Games and Divergent and Fifth Wave and all these things. With me, even though I'm not a super TV guy, it's kind of been TV where I brought Walking Dead to the group. I got Vince through, we watched Breaking Bad together. So this Better Call Saul might be something that we watch as a group later. Currently, right now, I am the only one that's been watching it. I watched the first season, and I just finished literally right before the show, finished the first episode of the second season. It's a great show. I was actually talking to Marshall about how I thought it was interesting that Vince Gilligan pulled a little magic trick and allowed his stay at AMC to be extended by doing this second show in the same universe. It's kind of a thing that they do, now with Fear the Walking Dead and Walking Dead. They're open to that kind of thing, but it's kind of cool that it's cool for us that are fans, and it was cool for him that he was able to do that. If you don't know anything about Better Call Saul, you would probably have to know stuff about Breaking Bad. Saul is, as you'll find out in the show, Saul isn't even his real name, but Saul Goodman is the name of the character. He's a lawyer, and he's introduced as a lawyer, kind of a shady lawyer in Breaking Bad. I won't get into too much details because I don't want to spoil anything, but Breaking Bad is set more in the present, basically-ish, or at least it's ahead of Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul is finding out how Saul became Saul, and so they're both great series. I wrote a review of Breaking Bad on our site, and it's just one of those. It comes out of nowhere with a weird premise, and it works. Better Call Saul is a great thing too, just to see The development of this character is really cool. And Bob Odenkirk, who, if you've never watched Mr. Show, which he does with David Cross, a sketch series, you might recognize him as Barney's boss on How I Met Your Mother. He's known for playing kind of obnoxious people. In this one, there's times when he can be that, but he's also sympathetic. Kind of like what you'll see when we talk about The Big Short, about Steve Carell's character. But, yeah, it's just, you see this guy that's kind of like nobody's ever thought much of him. And he's just trying, actually, literally trying to get by. He's not trying to step on anybody to get ahead. He's just trying to get by, but all the time he tries to, just have at least a modicum of success. It just kind of goes sideways all the time. So definitely check this out. Now you now have an interesting option when it comes to watching this. You can either watch Breaking Bad first and then watch the prequel of Better Call Saul. Again, he is not the only character from this world that's in it. There's another character that gets introduced in Better Call Saul as well. Or you can try to watch it chronologically. Either way you go, you'll still just be waiting until Better Call Saul goes off the air. I don't know how long it's going to last. Breaking Bad lasts 5 seasons, I believe. So, anyways, great performances, great storytelling. It's definitely worth checking out. It's some of the best TV on TV right now. So, speaking of the same network and the best TV on TV, we just started back to watching Walking Dead. We are in what I call the back 8 of this season, which is 6, I believe. Are we on season 6? Yeah, season 6 of Walking Dead. This show, I've said so much about on my shows, on Laney's shows. I just can't say enough about it. This episode will rock your face off. This show is always good for, an unseen, punch that will just get you. And this I'm not spoiling anything, but this one is intense. This first episode. There's nothing more to be said than they just keep getting better at what they do. The excellence of this show is, I just love that it's kind of a secret. It's not that big a secret because a lot of people know about it, but there's like this dividing line between traditional TV watchers and non-traditional TV watchers, and then amidst the non-traditional TV watchers, there's the Walking Dead people. Although the funny thing is, we watched Walking Dead semi-traditionally. There's no real good place to stream it, so other than Netflix when you wait for it to come out. So we basically DVR it and that night watch it a little bit late so we can get rid of the commercials. But this is really, I can't think of any other show right now that you could legitimately call appointment television to this level. If you know, then you know. If you don't know, then hopefully somebody will tell you how good this show is, because it's I think I've said it before, it's Shakespearean in a lot of ways, not in the way they talk, obviously, but in its depth of drama, absolutely. And I've watched a lot of Shakespeare. I can't say I've read a lot of Shakespeare, but I've watched a lot of movies, and they push you to the extreme dramatically, and this show is definitely, I think, near equal to Shakespeare. So, again, this is just another PSA about Walking Dead. Watch it. Find time, find your friends, bring them together. It'll be a ritual. It's our Sunday night ritual. It's practically church. So that's what we do. Now, we have been watching through Seinfeld with Lainey because Lainey had seen it periodically, but not all the way through. And we are in the home stretch on this one. We are in season 9, which is the last season. We are how many episodes in? 4? 4 episodes in, maybe 5 episodes in. And it's been a joy for me to watch it again. I watched it quite a bit when it first came out, and I've caught reruns here and there, but I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through. And I've still missed some because she'll watch it without me sometimes too. But it still has been fun to see the development of the show, especially from the very first season. It was really rough in the first season. And if you don't know any of the history of the show could have been canceled multiple times. It was really from this one executive, Brandon Tartikoff, that saved the show. I mean, he liked it and he championed it. That kind of stuff absolutely does not happen nowadays. It's interesting because I heard, I've been talking a lot. I've heard Jerry say that, or even maybe Larry David, I think, said that this show couldn't have worked with cell phones. There's a lot that's in the plot that just wouldn't have worked. And I think it's not really a time bubble because I think there's a lot that's timeless. I think because the show is like, one concern is comedy. There's no concern about making stars. There's no concern about lovable characters. There's no concern about any of the stuff that a lot of TV gets done. It's like, let's find the pretty guy, the pretty girl, make him, fall in love, that kind of stuff. It's none of that. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard the story, but apparently there was a thing on the wall in the writer's room of Seinfeld that said, "No hugging, no learning." In the sense that that's what a lot of sitcoms of the 80s did, and even before that. It's like, what's the little lesson we can put at the end of this episode and have Mom and Dad and Jimmy hug? So that's really the thing about the show. A little bit of trivia about the show. If you watch it, and there's a George Steinbrenner episode, number one, that's not really George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner was the owner of the Yankees, and apparently a dark period where nobody really liked Steinbrenner because he made terrible moves. I'm not a baseball person or a sports person. I don't know that part of the history. But if you listen very closely, you'll hear that it is Larry David doing the voice of George Steinbrenner. Larry David, at one point, was the head writer on the show. He is George Costanza is the embodiment of Larry David. That's pretty much his personality. But he left, I think, after season 3, I believe. So it was interesting that they actually got him to come back to do the Steinbrenner voice, because he does it after season 3. What are your thoughts on Seinfeld?
I didn't watch it a lot when it was originally out.
You were young too, I think.
Yeah, I was a bit younger, but even as I grew up and stuff, I wasn't too familiar with Seinfeld and what it was about. But I've been loving it. It's hilarious. Like, every time we watch it, I'm laughing almost the entire episode. And it's so smart in that they take a joke and they'll pretty much be what the main thing that the episode's about. There's not so much you have to see every episode to understand what's happening. There's, characters are developing, but it's not what it's all about. And I think that's why the show lasted so long and, did so well with the fans of it, is that it was just funny. It took something that everyone could kind of relate to as a joke and did an episode about it. And it wasn't worried about resolving a problem or anything like that. It just
not curing cancer. Just make people laugh. The thing that I find interesting now, watching it, seeing it, is most sitcoms up to this point were what you call a one and done or a one shot. They kind of did their story and they were done. But what Seinfeld did was create a universe where not only would you have a character come back, but you'd have little details come back. And that was really rare. I never noticed how much that happened. In just in passing comments, they'll be, "Oh yeah, that thing that happened a month ago." They do that. I mean, now that would happen in a drama, maybe that's a bigger story, but not in sitcoms. That didn't happen.
Yeah,
so
those side characters, they would have to be there every single episode. Like, thinking of the first thing I just thought of was Full House, like Kimmy Gilbert, or even Family Matters.
Right.
I know these are family.
Any
comedies,
of those, yeah.
But that
exactly
side character would always have to be there every episode in some way. Whereas there's the character Newman. We all know who he is. He comes and goes, but it's he doesn't have to be there every episode, involved in every situation. But when he shows up, you're still laughing. You know who he is, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there would be things like, I know that like even a lesser character that would come back, they would comment on what happened with them. Where it just has a more of a depth in that way. I remember, I think I still have the issue from Entertainment Weekly where they did an issue, special issue just on the minutia of Seinfeld. So it's got all these little itty bitty details about stuff. Like we actually go to a restaurant in town here that uses some of the names of from Seinfeld as the names of their dishes and stuff, because it's so quotable and very. I mean, there's a thing called the close talker, so the guy that talks close to you, and it's Seinfeld's sense of humor where he would just tag these different types of things in a way that was easy, digestible, and funny. That I think it kind of got in people's heads about this show, the people that love it, and it's very approachable in that way. Just know, if you've never cracked Seinfeld ever, just know. When we say no hugging, no learning, not a touchy-feely, these are the most despicable characters a lot of times. They are the most selfish people, and yet somehow they came together to be friends, but they really are selfish people. And so just know that there's not going to be any story arc where Jerry gets redeemed, or it's not that kind of show. It's a show about just these characters that are like selfish. And you were saying something interesting, because what I've heard of is the writers, especially Larry David, when he was the head writer on the show, he didn't want to hear any idea for the show that didn't really happen. A lot of their stuff was based on actual stuff that happened to the writers or to somebody they didn't know. As long as it really happened, they liked it and they put it in.
That makes sense.
So that's why it's very grounded, and it doesn't, as silly as it can be acted, there's still a sense of kind of truth to what goes on and stuff. So that's why I think it's so great. So definitely check out Seinfeld. If you're a comedy fan and you've never checked out Seinfeld, do that. It's on Hulu right now. I believe they put all the episodes up on Hulu. So check it out there. Another 90s show that we've been watching that just came back, it was X-Files. This season has been... I've only been an X-Files fan in about the movie. The first movie was great. I've tried to watch the shows here and there. I personally prefer the conspiracy shows versus the Monster of the Week shows. That's basically the way they kind of broke things up on the original show. Is there would be a Monster of the Week show, and then there'd be the government conspiracy alien thing. I like that part of it. Political stuff in movies interests me. Movies and TV interest me, so that's why I got into it. I really liked Fight the Future. That was the first movie. I really liked the way they did it. For those of you that don't remember or weren't alive at the time, they did a season finale, and then the movie came out in the summer, and then the next season opener in September were all connected as one story. So they did a really clever way to promote that, and I thought that was really cool. The first episode of this season was a home run. It was so good. I love the way they basically brought you up to speed with where we are now in history and how that affects them, and it was just really good. And the government conspiracies have only gotten deeper since the 90s. So from 9/11 to everything else that's happened, I think that's part of why they decided to bring it back, is because they can really go deeper into it. So I've really enjoyed it. Have you as well?
X-Files?
Yes. That's right. He doesn't like X-Files. I forgot.
Well, it's not that I don't like X-Files. I don't like certain alien stuff. But I mean, I've heard that it's not so much. I mean, I don't know. I've heard different things about it, so I am interested. I might check it out. I would say
this season, if you just watch this season, effectively that's the only season you watch, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah.
it's much more approachable. Like I told you, I didn't watch. What the only real seasons I intently, or the only thing of the original series, the only episodes I intently watched is Entertainment Weekly, which I subscribe to. They did their pick of the best episodes, and so that's what I watched. It was like maybe 10 episodes, and they were hit or miss for me. But so I feel you on that concept, and I'm not a huge Alien fan either. I like the government. Like I said, I like the government conspiracy part of it. Like, to me, the aliens could be interchanged for anything else. I like that there's a government conspiracy. That's the part I like about it. So, so I understand that you don't like it. I just wanted to see what they would do with it, because I also wanted to be justified from the stupid X-Files 2 movie, whatever that movie was called. I don't remember what it's called. I don't even acknowledge it. It was awful. It was some kind of romantic drama with occasional actual supernatural stuff in it. It was bad. Yeah. So I remember taking a friend that just, oh my gosh, he's a cowboy, and he was like so disappointed. He hated it. I can't even say probably what he said after we were walking out of it. It was bad. So, anyways, definitely check out the new season if you haven't seen it. Go back and watch the old if you liked as well. Know that Vince Gilligan, that did Breaking Bad, was a writer on the show. There is an episode with Bryan Cranston. It was the episode that Vince Gilligan directed, and that's kind of how they met and established the relationship that became Breaking Bad. So that's pretty cool. The next movie we're going to is a movie that we both looked really forward to seeing, although came out with differing opinions on, but it's called Hail Caesar. It's the latest from the Coen brothers. It's about old Hollywood, which both Chris and I absolutely love. We were actually tonight going to see The Maltese Falcon, and it's just a period of movies that I'm into. I've been to most of the stuff I watch is either 40s or 50s. That's kind of my heyday. I like some 30s stuff as well, but that's where I'm most versed, is in the 40s and the 50s, and this takes place in the 50s. Basically, if you haven't seen the trailer for it, George Clooney plays the hero of a biblical era movie called Hail Caesar, and he gets kidnapped. And Josh Brolin is basically the lot manager of this one company called Capitol Pictures, and he basically solves all the problems that go on. But I don't even know what his title is, but that lot manager is probably the best thing to call him. And so he's got this problem on his hands. He's got this huge movie going on, and he has to find this guy and have people help him find him. So it's got dance numbers, it's got water ballets, it shows a western, and honestly, the thing that was interesting for me, since I know a lot about the old movies, is there was almost one-to-one comparisons with most of the actors within the movie. So the aquatic ballet was Scarlett Johansson, and she was like Esther Williams, which was the big swimmer, aquatic ballet person back then. There was a cowboy that was like the actor Audie Murphy. I don't know who Channing Tatum specifically is, but he's definitely like a song and dance man. Gene Kelly-ish. I don't think he acted like Gene Kelly, but that was the concept of, because you see him as a sailor, so that's pretty much the. But anyway, so that's the whole concept.
What was the name of that bar that they were in that sequence? It was the Swinging Dinghy.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was a lot of double entendres in that whole episode. Really so in that little sequence,
just a segment, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was very interesting. But I really enjoyed the movie. I like a lot of different kinds of Coen Brothers movies, because they do a lot of different kind of movies. If you go from No Country for Old Men to this, I'm telling you, tonally, totally different kind of movie. You would not know the same people made it. This is more tonally what Oh Brother Where Art Thou was, for sure. It's more the heightened, silly kind of comedy.
Yeah.
And because it was set where it was set, and the time and all that stuff, I really enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was 100% perfect movie by any means, but it was a blast for me because it hit me right square down the middle of what I like about old Hollywood, and I like that silly comedy that the Coen brothers do very well.
Yeah.
Now you tell me your stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of parts in the movie that I did enjoy, especially seeing how the old movies were made. You kind of got to see it from different perspectives of like all the people that were making it and the actors that were in it, and even the people running the show way behind the scenes, like the lot manager guy, and him kind of solving all these issues coming up throughout the day that were being thrown at him. And I mean, looking back at it and kind of reanalyzing it, a lot of things made more sense, and it made me kind of realize, okay, this is a little bit more interesting than what I thought when I initially walked out of the theater. Because when I initially walked out, I was kind of disappointed in a way, because I thought it was going to be more about like George Clooney's character getting kidnapped, and then like all these actors and people from this movie studio kind of doing this goofy sleuth, let's go find them kind of thing. And it did turn out to be that, and not that that is a bad thing. It turned out to be a little different. And so throughout the movie I was kind of just like, what is really going on? Because there's all these like kind of different stories happening, different people coming in and going, and I'm just like, it wasn't like it was overwhelming, but it was just like, okay, what did that have to do with anything? But in the end, it all kind of made sense that it's a day in the life of this guy who's the lot manager, and he has parallel stories going on with like his family life, and he's trying to keep that running while at the same time the studio, and even like the issues with like some of his actors kind of paralleled like his home life, like his daughter, like his kids. He was like, well, I'm worried about this happening and that happening. Well, I'll have to help them out with that when I get a chance. But then in the end, he finds out, okay, well, things worked out and I didn't really have to do much. But then with the lot issues, like he had to set up the one Scarlett Johansson's character. She has an issue going on, and that kind of solved itself with Jonah Hill's character.
Yeah,
and things like that, and it kind of made more sense when you kind of take it back and actually think about it a bit. And that's one of the reasons why the Coen brothers are so good, is that it's not a lot of their stuff you can sit there and watch it once and it's like, okay, that was a lot of fun, great. But then a lot of times you gotta take a step back and actually think about it, and really then you'll end up appreciating it.
Yeah, the thing it's I think the best thing to tell anybody that's going to go see this movie or see it later on is Josh Brolin is the main character of the story. So don't think that George Clooney is, even though you see him a lot in the trailers. Josh Brolin, it really is the guy that he's the guy that holds the studio together. So he's like the main character, and I liked it from the beginning. But then in all honesty, we listened to a review from Mark Maron on WTF, and he started expounding on stuff that we hadn't even thought about. These ideas of Catholicism and faith that Josh Brolin's character has, where he's really trying to do the right thing all the time, even though he's in this kind of shady business. And this has nothing to do with what happens in the movie. But I'll just say this as an example: Rock Hudson. Everybody now knows that he is a gay man, but the studio would set up fake wives for him. This is the kind of stuff that Josh Brolin's character has to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so for him to have to deal with it in that way, as much as he loves the business he's in, I'm sure he's morally compromised in a way where you see at least twice he goes into confession, right? I believe it's twice, yeah. So he takes what he does seriously. He wants to do the right thing, and as he said in the movie, he kind of is able to see at times where he doesn't have to micromanage everything. There are some things do work themselves out. So I can't wait to see Hail Caesar again, to kind of see more of this depth that frankly Mark Maron was picking up on. And so I'm definitely really highly suggest that. If you're not familiar with any of the Coen Brothers movies, let me run down a list for you. Definitely, Miller's Crossing is basically their gangster movie. I believe it's set in the 30s. It's excellent. Chris hasn't even seen it yet. It's Gabriel Byrne. Really, really, really good stuff. Hudsucker Proxy is a funny one. You've never seen that one either, have you?
Haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's the one about the guy who invents the hula hoop. Part of it is what it is, but it's based on a true story, and how they kind of use him as a patsy to run the company and whatever. And that's Tim Robbins, and I believe Paul Newman. I'm not positive it's Paul Newman is in that as well, but that one's great. I really like Big Lebowski. I relate to that a lot because it's set in Cali, and this is just a part of it that I'm from California, so really love that movie. It's kind of a stoner noir, is the best way to say it. It's like a film noir, but Jeff Bridges, who calls himself the Dude, and it prefers to be called the Dude, gets caught up in this this big mix. Basically, that's what film noirs are. It's like one guy, against all odds, gets caught up in this big mess and finds his way through it, and that's kind of basically what that is. With great, John Goodman is a staple in the Coen Brothers movies. He's always playing an interesting character. I just said, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" That's a great one. Very silly, what they call in the past a hayseed comedy. So it's set in the South, and they're all really kind of not the most intelligent tools in the shed. I liked No Country for Old Men a lot. Their True Grit was great. I'm kind of literally saying almost all of their movies, but I'm definitely saying the one that I liked.
What about Lady Killers?
I actually just recently watched it, and it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Really?
But I'm not going to
one.
suggest
I've
it to
heard
people
that.
because I think people will be kind of not great. That one was actually a remake. But
Oh yeah.
and so those are the ones that I liked. Definitely check those out if you can track them down. There are a lot of. They kind of make me proud to be American that we have directors on that level that are, to me, as good as any directors in the world. They're like their movies are definitely artistic, but they're also very approachable. They're great.
Yeah.
They're really great stuff. And so now we'll get into the movies we saw for the Best Picture Showcase. For the first Saturday, we saw, the first one was a couple of guys got together and did a movie, some Hanks I think was his last name, and Spielberg or something like that. Oh yeah, it was called Bridge of Spies. Bridge of Spies is a story where Tom Hanks plays this insurance lawyer. This is all based on a true story, who negotiated I guess we can say what it is. It's basically, because it's history. He negotiated a deal for a U.S. American pilot in exchange for a Russian spy. In this case, it's not that how it comes out. It's the how he did it and all that kind of stuff. Of course, these people are firing in all cylinders. It's Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, for crying out loud. I watched it. This is my second time seeing it. I like to be able to watch even more. Do you watch the first bit of this movie where this one gentleman who you know nothing about yet, and he's just walking through like Brooklyn or something like that, and just the level of detail and all the buildings? I'm like, okay, I'm in good hands with this movie. This movie is so detailed and so well researched and everything. And that's what Spielberg brings to the table for sure.
That opening part was fantastic. There's very little dialogue, and it just takes the right director to be able to do something like that, to set you up with a story and everything with just such minimal dialogue and just good actors. And this movie is no exception of his great work.
Yeah, when you can trust the camera to do what it does. A lot of people might not know this, but there's so much that you can do if you've got the right actors that you don't need that much dialogue. So much is given without it. And so, speaking of which, this actor, Mark Rylance, is that what I'm saying his name right? I think this is his name. He is a find. Like, I'm assuming he's only ever done theater, because I've never seen him anywhere before this. But man, was he good. He just owned the screen. He's the reason why we say there's not a lot of dialogue, because in the beginning he's the character that you see, and without dialogue he's just like, he just is so present in these scenes. It's so good. And the thing I noticed this time while watching it, since I wasn't really following the plot as much as I knew it was going to happen, is the relationship between his character and Tom Hanks' character is one of the biggest parts of this whole movie. One of the it's just great to see that kind of mutual respect, and Mark Rylance plays a Russian spy in the '60s. That's who he is. I'm not spoiling anything. You'll know that pretty soon off. But to see an American lawyer care enough about humanity in general to see past who that guy is to his humanity, and see them know, and then the Russian played by Mark Rylance realize that he can actually trust, his now lawyer. There's this mutual thing going on. It's really awesome to see.
Yeah, I just looked him up. It looks like, pretty much everything he's done before is like plays. He's won Tony Awards, and he's had Emmy nominations. Most recently for that show on BBC, Wolf Hall. He's had a lot of nominations for that, Golden Globes. He was nominated for that too.
Yeah, I believe he's Scottish, because he has a Scottish accent in the movie. So yeah, whenever I see an actor that's that good that I've never heard of, and it's not that I'm like the bomb, it's just I keep up on who's who and what's what actors wise. I know they've had to have some kind of theatrical training, because they don't just come out of the woodwork like that good. So it's a great movie. It's a solid movie. It's what you'd expect from the two of them, and an interesting time in history. It's got parallels to this time because of how the fear and the terror that 9/11 put into people is as equal to the fear and the terror that there was going on at the time of the Cold War. So it's definitely relevant. Don't think, I'm going to go see this boring movie about the 60s. It's not even about, because it's not about the hippie 60s. It's about the pre that. But no, it's a great movie to see. I was thinking of, when I was watching it, is like how cool Spielberg must feel cool that he got to like document these little parts of history, like the landing at on D-Day, all these little, like Gary Powers getting shot down, that kind of, these little things that nobody has seen, but he gets to enact them. Yeah. And kind of like have there be a reference point to them.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll be like a point where you could be like, history according to Steven
Spielberg. Yeah, pretty
and,
much.
Go through like the last 100 years, and it's all like.
Well, the way he researches it, it's like it's not quite a documentary, but it's practically. So that was the first one. The second one we saw, we were all kind of dreading in a way. I think it's a movie called Room. If you call it The Room, don't look that movie up online. You don't want to see that movie. This one's called Room, and it stars Brie Larson as a young mother. And the thing that distinguishes her from other young single mothers is she was kidnapped at a young age, imprisoned in a shed, and impregnated. And now she has, at the point you see the movie, a 5-year-old boy. So it's all about. It does a really good job in a lot of senses, almost very similar to like a Peter Weir movie. If you've ever seen Master and Commander or Dead Poets Society, notice those movies again and watch the scenes without the actors in them or without the acting. He's so good at just showing you so much details of a thing that it's very like that, because you just see they don't force feed you anything or like spoon feed you anything. You just see this kid has his imaginary life. He has an imaginary dog. He has like all these little things When he says, good night, he says good night to everything in the room. Little things like that, little details that they just show you. What's the director's name? Can you look that up? The thing that I really got blown away by this on a visual scale, not just visual, but like, he did so much communication, not only through visuals, but even through dialogue that was indirect. Like, you got so much from just what he was showing you and what the characters were showing you without, in that sense, it was like, it wasn't quite being like a security camera, but it was almost to that point where they just were like living in front of that camera, and you got so much from them. Just little, like, there were so many little sequences where they would show different points of view, and sometimes blurry points of view, and some just like, it was just so well done. And it, I think Brie Larson was really amazing in this. I had seen her in United States of Terra, which I thought she was really good in as well.
Korean shows on that, yeah.
But the kid is phenomenal. Like, kid actors are really naturalistic. Kid actors are so hard to find.
Jacob Tremblay.
Jacob Tremblay was the director, and man.
No, the actor.
Oh, the actor Jacob Tremblay.
But the director. He is Lenny Abramson. From Ireland.
What else has he done?
He's mostly done independent movies, but the most recent one that you might know is Frank, that had what's his name? Michael Fassbender in it, where he wears like this paper mache head.
Oh yeah. I've seen his pictures of that.
Donald Gleason's in it, and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, I have to see it.
Yeah, I think it's on a streaming service.
Yeah, I have to check that out. But anyways, now that I've seen this, I'll definitely go see stuff he makes, because he's so good at what he does.
As far as like the movie being kind of about a really sad thing, it was still a beautifully shot movie. Even in that room, it still looked great on screen, and I just love that.
Yeah, it's like, because it's like, it's like, if you think about what is this character going to do with what happened to her? That's kind of the answer, or the question everybody is asked about whatever they go through. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with it? She now has a 5-year-old kid. Is she going to go, that 5-year-old kid represents a terrible time in my life, so I'm not going to, like, acknowledge him anymore? No, she's going to look at what she's been given and look at it in the best positive way and move forward. That's the kind of, that's her struggle, is to keep that going. And at times you see her frailty, you see her inability to cope with it, but you see her just push through it, and it's amazing. I don't even want to talk too much about the plot, because I knew more about the plot than he did going in, but I think it's good to kind of protect that. But no, it's like amazing performances. And there, some of the just don't do any research when you go, if you're going to go see this movie. Just see it, or wait until it comes out on streaming and just watch it. It'll be better for you if you experience it in a pure way that way. But definitely, really a surprisingly good movie. I knew that I probably liked Brie Larson, but that's probably all I knew going into it, other than a couple of things. But great movie. Now, the next one is Mad Max Fury Road. This was the first Mad Max I've seen, and I almost say that much to the consternation of people I know. But they can't believe that I've never watched Mad Max. Like, I have to turn in my mail card or something like that. I don't know, but my man card. But it was an interesting movie. I think it was great that the George Stevens, is that his name?
No, George Miller.
George Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that George Miller directed this. I think it's great that he had this chance to keep telling that story this many years later. 20-something years later? Because Thunderdome was still in the 80s.
Yeah, I think that was made in the 80s.
Yeah, that was like the third one, so that was great. And I thought I had seen like one scene from it, other than seeing the trailer and seeing how that it was a very intense, kind of relentless paced movie, which I thought was cool. I did enjoy the movie on the whole. I liked the design of it was great in that I was telling Chris it felt like there was some source material somewhere that they created this from, like that there had been a comic book that they were like, okay, we're gonna make it look like a comic book. It was that level of detail. It was intense. It was the main actors were all really good. I know his last name is Holt, but I can't remember.
Nicholas Holt?
Nicholas Holt, yes.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen About a Boy or the more recent X-Men movies, he plays the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
He's in it. And Charlize Theron was great. Of course, she always is.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Hardy was great, and he didn't sound too much like Bane, except for one scene. So it's just it's a fun, to me, when I see movies like this, what I take from them being a kind of I'm not old guy, but I remember older movies and the movies I grew up with in the 70s and stuff like that, which were not a lot of people's movies. They were like more like Smokey and the Bandit and stuff like that. So to see big car stunt movies, which I don't watch a lot anyways, I've never seen any of the Fast and the Furious, but to see stuff done practically, a lot of it was practically on this scale, it makes me happy in a sense, because I know that there's still an industry where those people are going to get jobs, and all that
Mm-hmm.
that to me makes me happy, because I know it's a tendency, well, let's just do it CGI because it's cheaper now that it's gotten to the point where it's cheaper. So that was really cool. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy a lot of elements. I liked the world that was really created. Again, I'd never seen any of these before. I don't think any of the things were necessarily in any of the other movies, were they?
No.
Because there's like little town. There's like Gas Town and...
Yeah, there's the Citadel, which has like a lot of water and vegetation, and then there's the Gas Town, which obviously has like the gasoline stuff. Bullet Town.
Armory, probably.
Yeah.
So really interesting, unique characters. Chris informed me that the villain was actually a guy from the original movie, but they actually they gave him a mask and stuff, so you couldn't necessarily tell that it was him. Is he the guy with the mohawk from the original movie?
The guy with the mohawk?
Isn't there a guy?
Let me
I wonder. But anyways, so it was enjoyable. There is one point of issue that Lainey and I and Marshall kind of took with the movie, and there's a scene when they're kind of doing their big push as a chase. The bad guys going after Max and Charlize Theron and all that stuff, and they show these guys with drums on their truck or whatever, which is cool, like war drums. That's cool. And then you hear a guitar. We're like, well, that's fine. It's a cool guitar. And then they show this guy with stacks upon stacks of speakers in a ridiculous costume, playing an electric guitar, and fire shoots out of the neck of the guitar. That, to me, was... it was just the one thing that kind of deflated the rest of it being cool. It was just like, it was just a little bit too much. So that was literally the main problem I had with the movie. So it was a minor thing, but it did become a source of a conversation afterwards because it was so ridiculous. It didn't take away from the movie. It didn't. It was okay. I mean, I was fine with the rest of the movie, and I could enjoy it again. I would be, but it was that would have been my one pet peeve of the movie, is that guy should, even if they put him in there, they didn't kill him off. They should have killed him off, because that was annoying. But
yeah, I discovered about the backstory of that guy.
Oh, did they have a backstory of him?
Yeah, basically, when he was a kid, his mother was killed in front of him, and Morton Joe, the big bad guy from this, that's running the Citadel. He ends up finding him out in the middle of nowhere, still with like holding his mother's head. But he takes him in, and he was a musician before, him and his mother. And he grows up and becomes the guitar playing kind of leader of their war boys. Every time they go out, he's out there, rallying the troops with his guitar and giant mound of speakers. But yeah, and the creepy thing too is that his face, why it looked weird? That was the mask of his mother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is creepy. Okay, well,
that's why it looked like a zombie to you.
Again, I will definitely see the movie again. I might fast forward that guy, but anyways, so if you want to talk more about the movie,
no, I talked about it before on here. So I loved it. I loved it again, though. I did have kind of a headache at the end of it this time.
It was
I don't know
so
if it's
loud.
it was closer or what. Maybe it was louder.
I think they just had that theater cranked.
Maybe
because
I had a huge
we'll
headache
get
after
into
that
the other part later. Boy, it was so great. Okay, so the last movie we saw tonight was The Big Short. This is a movie about our recent history in the financial sector of America, why we have been in a recession for so long. This movie is about the guys, not that brought us into a recession, but it's about the guys that literally discovered it, and then they made money off of it. Not making money off of people, but making money off the banks who made money off of people. So you can actually not hate the guys that are the main characters of this movie. This movie was written by, as I'm looking at my thing behind
Adam
me.
McKay was one of the writers.
Adam McKay, yeah, I was looking at Michael Lewis. I was looking at the guy who wrote the book. The guy that wrote he also wrote Moneyball and The Blind Side, the books that those movies are based on. This movie, I knew pretty good amount about this movie. I knew that the number one, they're actually playing real guys in it. It's not a fictionalized telling of it. So you have Christian Bale is the first guy that discovers it. You have Steve Carell, probably the last to the game of it. Ryan Gosling, who brings the idea to Steve Carell's character, and then Brad Pitt, who's in a separate part of the story. They're doing the same thing, but he's not connected to the other people. Believe it or not, they made the financial crisis into a comedy. It really is funny. The reason why it's funny is because Adam McKay, if you've never heard that name, there's a couple of things you have to thank him for. You have to thank him for his years on Saturday Night Live. You have him to thank for most of Will Ferrell's movies, because he's Will Ferrell's buddy. You also have him to thank him for Funny or Die, because he started Funny or Die with Will Ferrell. And if you've ever seen that first video that they called Pearl with the little drunk, quote-unquote drunk landlord girl, that's Adam McKay's daughter. So that's the kind of thing. So now, this was an interesting thing to watch, because Lainey and I definitely felt the brunt of this. The reason why we were in Florida has a lot to do with the recession and what we went through, struggling to find work in California, and it really doesn't deal with the dramatic part of it till the end. Up until that point, it's pretty much just there's a lot of comedy in it. I really enjoyed the movie. I think he handled it really well. For Adam McKay to move from, even though there was comedy in this, it's like, I still think it's a step up from anything he's done before. It's just to show that he can actually, do more. This is his Truman Show, like like it was for I'm blanking on his name, Jim Carrey. So I highly suggest seeing this movie. It was funny to see the guy Schmidt from New Girl playing a total DB real estate guy, and you said that.
Well, he was a mortgage
guy,
which my mother was a real estate agent during that time period, and leading up to all of that, and met a lot of people that were in real estate, and kind of like the woman that was showing them houses in Florida, and kind of like trying to make the best of like what they knew the situation was, and then also meeting a lot of those mortgage brokers who, you know, lived like they were rock stars because they would get these giant bonuses from banks for giving out terrible loans to people that really should not have been getting these loans. And I thought it was perfect. Like, I saw, I don't know the actor's name, but yeah, like Schmidt and this other guy, I'm just like, I've seen like at least 15 of those people in real life. And they're exactly like that. They're just like, I don't care. I'm making tons of money, and, you know, who cares if these people are going to, you know, have problems down the road? That's not ever going to happen.
Yeah. I thought it was funny that the guy that was with Schmidt when it was also in Bridge of Spies.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, he was the junior partner to Tom Hanks.
He looked familiar.
Yeah. So basically, I'll summarize the plot. We all kind of know the plot because we lived through it, but you get all stories represented, but Steve Carell's story, basically, his firm goes deeper and deeper into this, what they see as the crisis, and they are constantly dumbfounded by how nobody's doing anything about it.
He's kind of like a guy that looks for like problems and stuff and tries to, you know, champion it or make more people aware of it. He tries to be a good guy in a way.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier when I said we were going to talk about it. He can be seen as obnoxious on the surface. He definitely is not a person that's diplomatic or you know, kind that in that way in a surface level. But what he said, he had some tragedy in his life, and it kind of turned his life around to where the point where he does try to stick up for the little guy in a way. So.
And seeing that this is going to happen, he's not just like, okay, well, it's going to happen, why not profit? It's, well, why is this happening? Like, who's causing this? What's causing this? Why aren't we doing something to prevent this? And, yeah, you see him and his team kind of going more and more into that, and you're just like, wow, this was a bigger deal than just people not paying their loans.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you just see, like, at one point, this isn't spoiling, one thing, he has this one conversation, and you just see him constantly going, I can't believe that this guy is saying this with a straight face. I can't believe that this is actually, that they're smiling back at me, saying that they're ripping people off, and they have no conscience about it. Like, because what they found out is there were so many layers. Like, this whole economy thing was like onions upon onions of just layers upon layers of fraud, that it was so deep that's why once it hit its peak or whatever, everything, it was like literally a house of cards. Everything just collapsed. And so, yeah, I mean, it's an astounding movie. It's kind of like All the President's Men if it were a comedy. It's very similar to that kind of story where you just couldn't believe how messed up things were. But at least you have people like, you know, Steve Carell's character to hold on to. I would say Brad Pitt's character is kind of an interesting thing because he kind of got out of it, the business of
like
banking and stuff like that. And it was pulled back in by a couple young guys, but still he kind of keeps his own compass when it comes to that, his moral compass. And so I highly suggest it. It's not a hard one to watch. It definitely gets dramatic towards the end where you see the poignancy of when it gets really at its lowest, but he keeps it light enough that you can really tolerate it. So, and I really enjoyed it. It was my number one of the ones we saw, and so yeah, definitely give that one a shot. Check it out. We will be, I think next time we'll have another one of these for the next time, and then I know since he and I watched Jane Got a Gun, we're also going to in the future do a couple of westerns. and we'll do our picks for the westerns that we like. That'll be probably 2 episodes down the line. Check us out. We're going to be start making sure that we post on Instagram and Snapchat and all that kind of stuff, trying to bring up our social presence online, and just stay tuned because we'll be coming with more episodes at you. The website has what it has. It's on hold right now. We just got too much else going on to be able to write so much, but check out at MovieGuy84.
Mm-hmm.
He's on Twitter. What are your other?
Mainly Instagram.
Instagram, and is it MovieGuy84 on Instagram?
Yep.
Okay, and I'm Corey Estel on at Twitter at Corey Estel. I am on Instagram. I'll try to be on there more. I am Corey Estel on Instagram, I believe. So definitely check out there. That would probably be the best places to find our stuff while we were doing it. We'll take more pictures and try to share more with you as we go. Until later, when we come back to you next week with our more best pictures. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.